What's up everybody, this is Zoya the Russian Korean. And today is another Explore the Lore Day! Which means it's time to look at another region of Runeterra. If you haven't seen my two previous Explore the Lore videos, I've done one on Ionia and one on Noxus. So please check those out if you haven't. But today, the region, I kind of thought about what should be the next region that I explore, and based on your comments and I think suggestions overall, I think the region that I need to explore next is Shurima, which is exactly what I'm gonna do today. All I know about Shurima is that it's kind of like a desert, wasteland, a rocky, sandy, kind of hot place. I also know that I think Rise, Azir, Nasus, I can't really think of anyone else off the top of my head right now, but they are part of Shurima. So it's going to be interesting exploring the different aspects of that region. So without further ado, why don't we start? Okay, so I am on the Universe website. Okay. That's Pulsefire stuff here. Okay. Well, we're not gonna get into that. Let's go to regions. And Shurima right here. Da, da, da. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Look at this animation here. Cool illustration, animated illustration, should I say. Everything's kind of bouncing here. I like the birds flying by. Look at that. I think that's always cool. And then these sands or dust, whatever it is. I guess there's a caravan going in. We're probably going to see a more expanded version of this illustration. But for now, why don't we go down? And of course, we get the introduction here. So let's read it together. The Empire of Shurima was once a thriving civilization that spanned an entire continent. Forged in a bygone age by the mighty god warriors of the Ascended Host, it united all the disparate peoples of the south and enforced a lasting peace between them. Few dared to rebel. Those that did, like the accursed nation of Icathia, were crushed without mercy. I hope I read Icathia right. However, after several thousand years of growth and prosperity, the failed ascension of Shurima's last emperor left the capital in ruins, and tales of the empire's former glory became little more than myth. Now, most of the nomadic inhabitants of Shurima deserts eke out a meager existence from the unforgiving land. Some have built small outposts to defend the few oases, while others delve into long-lost catacombs in search of the untold riches that must surely lay buried there. There are also those who live as mercenaries, taking coin for their service before disappearing back into the lawless wastelands. Still, a handful dare to dream of a return to the old ways. Indeed, more recently, the tribes have been stirred by whispers from the heart of the desert that their emperor Azir has returned to lead them into a new, wondrous age. Emperor Azir, huh? Kind of has the same vibe as Lord Mordekaiser, you know what I mean? So the introduction is giving me this kind of Egyptian-inspired, I guess, history, because as we all know, Egypt used to be this glorious civilization thousands of years ago for many, many years. And now all the traces of that civilization are just ruins. Of course, I'm not talking about the country, Egypt, as we know it today. I'm talking about the ancient civilization that we all kind of heard of or read about in our history book, watched movies about. So, an intriguing introduction. Let's move on to the champions of Shurima. Da-da-da. Oh, that's it. That's just what, like 10 of them? Okay, so it's Amumu, Azir, Nasus, Rammus, Renekton, Rengar, Sivir, Skarner, Talia, Serath. I didn't know that Serath was from Shurima. That's really the only surprise here for me. And maybe a Rengar, but I really don't know anything about Rengar, so figures. I like how the animal kingdom here is well represented. We got a scorpion, we got a kitty cat over here, we got a dog, and something between a turtle and an armadillo, and then I guess he's kind of like an alligator or crocodile or something. And Azir kind of reminds me of a bird. And we got these two ladies here, Talia and Sivir. And the mummy, of course. So yeah, a lot of kind of inspiration, I think, from ancient Egypt with the mummy. And also Nasus definitely looks like Anubis, which was a god of death, I think, in ancient Egypt. And then Azir reminds me of Ra, who was the sun god, the top tier god, I guess, in ancient Egypt. And he had the head of a falcon. And Azir kind of has that appearance a little bit. Of course, these are just, my thoughts, impressions. Maybe, of course, the creators had some other sources of inspiration, but I think it's a fair guess. Now, as I do in all of my Explore the Lore videos related to regions, I'm not gonna go into the specific stories and backgrounds of each of the champions. We're just kind of getting an overall look at the region. So when it comes to stories, which is, I guess, the next part, again, I'm not gonna go into them in detail because I feel like that deserves its own thing. And if I go into this, we could be on this page like forever. So instead, why don't we move on to the pictures here? Okay, I'm just gonna go one by one. How about that? Okay, the rebuilt sun disk over the streets of Nashramaya. Okay, the sun disk, of course, reminds me of the Egyptian winged sun disk. The vibe I'm seeing here, though, is kind of like Middle Eastern-ish, kind of a bazaar vibe going on here. I like the atmosphere. Even though you can't see the actual sun here, the sun disk kind of adds, I think, to, there's this bright sky and you can really feel that it's pretty hot in there. These camel-like creatures here also pretty cool. They're really huge. Okay, let's move on. The sands recede and Shurima is reborn. Oh. I always pay attention to colors, and here I really like the faded gold. Basically, the entire picture is kind of in that tone. I think the cool part is that there are these sands here, so it looks like, it's in the middle of a desert. But right in the middle, I can see some details. There's some greenery there, which kind of shows that, this is a place where, there's life. And water right here, of course. I think this is a different perspective of the same, I guess, skyline-ish. Okay, so I see here, there's this detail. You can see like a little caravan traveling toward, I guess, the city. It just gives you the sheer kind of size reference. This thing is huge. It's like humongous. But the interesting part is that this disc, like it's hovering, it's not attached to anything. At least it doesn't look like it is. I guess it's held up by some sort of magic, but it looks handmade. It looks actually man-made. So it's not like this supernatural whatever. It's actually something like a blend of both. There is the human aspect of it, so it's made from something, from I guess some sort of gold or some gold-like metal. But then the fact that it's suspended like this over everything, kind of defying the laws of gravity, lets you know that there are some elements here involved. And the description here, risen from the sands to bathe in the sun's light once more. I'm guessing this is not the Shurima of the old age, but the reborn Shurima. So I guess it's returning to its former glory. Okay, so this is the illustration that I saw in the very beginning when I clicked on the page. I guess this is like the banner image. The overall tones here, the golds, the pinks, but then also contrasting with this blue of the sky. It's like dawn. I can feel the coolness of the shadows, but then also you can really tell that the day's gonna be hot. And of course, this disc is always hovering over everything. All right, now we are seeing these ruins here. Are these the ruins of this? Possibly. Like these pillars here kind of look like these here. It may be that this is what it looked like before it came back to its glory. The ruins of Shurima, its once grand palaces and citadels cast to ruins. Yeah, it may be that this is an image of like, this is like before and after, before, after. It kind of looks like that. This looks like the disc buried in the sand. And yeah, I can see a little bit, there's like people here, so you can tell that this is really huge. So that's amazing that it used to be like this, just like this wasteland of ruins, and then it came back to this. Like I could see how that could be like a really inspiring and hopeful sign to people living there. Okay, what do we have here? The daughter of Setaka ascended Hierophant of Sureda. I hope I didn't just butcher every single one of these words. Okay, so I'm guessing this is some sort of important lady here. I'm also guessing it's this one who's covered because she looks different from the rest. The rest look a little bit more like cut and paste. Even the animals. It's interesting how these look pretty ferocious, but there's this girl here just like, hey, can I pet you? Okay, so of course, I don't know who this person is. There's probably a story related to that. So we'll see if we'll bump into it. Marrow Market. That's a lot of alliteration here. Okay, so this kind of looks like a carcass, I guess, of a really large animal. And there is now a marketplace right here. Right in the carcass. So even though this is technically just bones of a dead animal or creature, whatever that was, there's now life inside of the carcass. How interesting. Yeah, the tents, the drapery, they really fit the whole desert nomadic vibe of the region. Zoantha Cascade. What is this? The shifting tides of the desert have been known to carve paths through bare rock, tumbling over the cliff faces in massive sandfalls. Traditionally, Shurimans toss beloved objects into the sands as gifts to the ascended. As a result, such falls are often lucrative spots for treasure hunters. I see. Looks like the canyon. Also, what is this here? Okay, and the last photo in this series looks like a tree, a dead tree. Not sure, like a coral a little bit. Let's see. The Valley of the Song. This remote pass takes its name from the disorienting whistling that results when the wind blows hard enough through the hollow rock structure. Okay, so these are rocks. Many unwary travelers have found themselves at the mercy of the deafened marauders who prowl the valley by night. Okay, so this is not a place to spend your vacation, okay? Don't go there, because you're probably gonna get robbed or killed or both. Okay, so these were the photos from the Visions of Shurima section. Let's move on. Okay, this is the fun part. Life in Shurima. I don't know, I just like looking at, like, people. Okay. This person's feet look like hoofs, quite honestly. Okay, raiders. The raiders of Shurima survive not through trade, but through violence. These bands of marauders often attempt to blend into the environment in order to lure unsuspecting travelers into traps before killing them, taking their belongings, and, in very rare cases, eating them. Okay, so these guys sometimes are cannibals. That's disturbing. And this looks like a humanized version of Fiddlesticks. The Shackle. These nomadic raiders are known for their agility, using hardened bone braces and pole arms to vault towards their victims at terrifying speeds. I'm getting a sense that Shurima is not a very safe place. Like, that's a place you move out of, not to. Also, their faces are concealed. Of course, if they are, raiders and marauders, they probably don't want to show their faces. Kind of gives you this mysterious feeling. Okay, again, no face. Again, looks a little scary. Let's pretty interesting claws here. Dorman riders. Or Dormoon riders. Dorman riders use claw grips to traverse the complex series of ropes that connect the mobile village's dwellings. Once a rider becomes too old or infirm to run the ropes, they are lowered to the ground to live out the rest of their days as a land dweller. So that just kind of lets you know that life on land, where everybody is vulnerable, I guess, is pretty dangerous here in Shurima. In order to keep yourself together, you gotta be off the ground. Literally. Okay, so now I'm actually seeing more normal looking people. You can see their faces at least. Scavengers. Shurima scavengers live by looting food, valuables, and trade goods. Mostly, they venture into the ruins of abandoned sand-wrecked cities. Scavengers are prime targets for raiders when moving on foot, so will often ride sand swimmers to avoid ambush. So everyone here is just surviving, doing everything they can to live another day. No shoes, just some bandages. But I like that the kid is at least kind of looking like he's smiling. There's some hope, I guess. Okay, where's the front? Where's the back here? I'm guessing this is the front because the paws are facing this way. Sand swimmers. Oh, that's the sand swimmers that were mentioned in a previous description. Okay. These massive creatures traverse the desert in cyclical patterns, feeding on the bugs and other small creatures most desert beasts ignore. Scavengers will often memorize the predictable paths these creatures take and jump onto their backs to ride as far as they wish. Okay, so they're supposed to be massive. So this person here, is it a reference, a size reference, or is this just a person in the background? They're kind of not on level ground here, I'm not sure. But if they are this big compared to a person, then why do they just eat bugs and small creatures? Or do they mean people? Because they're small compared to this. But I guess overall they're fairly harmless to people since these scavengers use them for traversing. Like, I guess it's safe enough to do that. Upper class city dwellers. Okay, the tassels remind me of some Babylonian civilizations back in the day. Yep, these guys have a little more color in their clothes as opposed to, the other ones that we saw, which were fairly monotone. They also have shoes. They have these nice sandals. Some jewelry. Shoulders, arms are more or less exposed. Only thing is, I feel like this lady's hairstyle is not very creative. But maybe, maybe this is just her. Maybe that's just her daily look. And low-class city dwellers. So we got the upper class and the low class. So the upper class, they look like if I were to compare, the upper class look like, when you get a Lego set, they look like a Lego set that's been put together, like they're from one set. These guys, these guys look like they're a collection of the leftovers from different Lego sets. They're just like mashed together. So he's got this weird random thing here. This guy's sandals have pretty elaborate shin guards, whereas this guy's are a lot more simple. And I'm guessing this guy's a farmer, and I'm not sure what this guy's doing. So I guess Shurima has all kinds of people, right? Overall, though, I feel like the concept, at least of these first three, is kind of really more on like the fantastic side. It's not, I feel like Noxus is a lot more grounded, kind of heavy, a little less mystical, fantastic. Whereas here, I feel like a lot more creative liberty, let's put it that way. Not that Noxus is not creative, please don't get me wrong, but the steel of Noxus, the kind of determination on this one goal, like to make Noxus great, it kind of unites everyone, whereas here it's just kind of everywhere. And the one unifying, I guess, aspect of it all is that everyone is just surviving here. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Rise, the Burning Lands. I'm guessing it's part of the Rise comic, right? I know that there's a Rise comic, so maybe these are just some illustrations from the comic itself. So I'm not gonna get too much into it because if I do read the comic, I want to, I don't want to like spoil anything. I hope they don't spoil anything here. This description actually is like, I think literally cut and paste from the other description that I read about the cascades that I said looked like canyon. So I'm guessing Rise is looking at the same thing. Skalashi. Hardy beasts of burden coming across Shurima. It's these guys. Skalashi are ideally suited to the harsh desert environment. Notoriously bad-tempered, they are nevertheless treated with great reverence, their hides often painted with sacred symbols of protection, and their horns hung with totems and charms. To own one is often considered a sign of considerable prosperity. So is Rise rich? Is that what you're trying to tell me? This lady has some major wrinkles on her face. Some major creases. She needs a that plumping lotion. The high contrast in these images is really striking. Like over here as well. The darkness, almost pitch black, and then almost white here. So they're like really contrasting each other. Lets you know like the real heat of the desert, but also lets you know that this is a harsh environment, not mild at all. And another illustration. Interesting. There's like people hanging off of these. Atop the Dorman. Some Shurimans choose to live their nomadic existence atop giant, slow-moving creatures known as Dorman. Protected by large chitinous plates, Dorman evolved to survive the perpetual drought and harsh conditions of Shurima. The dormant riders clean the creature and hunt any airborne pests who venture near, while the dormant uses unknown senses to locate hidden reservoirs of water. So this is a prime example of humans and animals kind of working together, finding that synergy to survive. That's pretty cool. It's like a moving house. This image, actually, along with some other ones where they're showing, what are they called? The Scalashi, yeah, like this one. They remind me of some Salvador Dali's paintings, which were I think inspired by some Turkish paintings. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's what it makes me think of. Featured a video, so I think there are 1, 2, 3, 4 featured videos. How long are they? Can I watch all of them? I guess there's no dev video here, which is fine. But why don't we just check these out? So first one is Shurima, Descend into the Tomb. Scroll after scroll in Noxian libraries chronicle the power buried within Shurima. Now Cassiopeia thinks she's found the key. Is this about Cassiopeia? Let's see.
The tragic fall of Shurima was nothing compared to the tragedy of its rise from the grave.
What a voice.
In a market on the edge of the desert, a stranger appears. Cassiopeia, a noble woman of Noxus.
Okay.
Looking to hire a guide to take her to the fabled lost city. But not just any guide. She hires the owner of a legendary ancient blade, the mercenary, called Sivir. Sivir
Okay.
gathers her band of sellswords, and they set out into the desert to find the buried bones of Shurima.
I like the stories told in kind of this fresca
5
style.
days beneath the broiling sun, a scout spots towers jutting from the dunes, and a stairway leading underground. They climb down into
That's pretty cool.
darkness.
The perspective change.
Ancient treasures gleam in the torchlight. Even Sivir is astonished at the grandeur of the ruins. Her men head deeper in, only to stumble into traps and be eviscerated.
Eviscerated.
Sivir is stunned with horror, but Cassiopeia does not flinch. She sees only the statue of a huge serpent silently guarding the door to the tomb of the emperors, and smiles. The ancient weapon is a key. Cassiopeia betrays Sivir. She picks up Sivir's blade, puts it into the lock. The Guardian's curse is triggered. The stone serpent comes alive. It pins Cassiopeia in its jaws. The venom sears her flesh like acid. The tomb door opens. Renekton emerges. The brother I loved.
What the heck is going on? It's like, this happens. Renekton.
By Zara.
Sarah. Everyone's here.
My failure is complete. Sivir drags herself away, lifeblood flooding from her wound, and then succumbs to darkness. Behold Shurima's legacy.
Okay. So I guess this video explains some of the relationships here between different characters. And I guess this is also like a background story to Cassiopeia's being a snake lady. Okay, well, moving on. This one, I guess, is about Sivir. As Sivir bleeds onto scorching sands, she inches closer to a discovery that will change everything she knows about herself and transform the course of history. Okay, so I guess this is after what happened with Cassiopeia, because she was betrayed by her. Sivir is now undergoing something else. Let's see.
As Sivir lies betrayed and bleeding,
Okay, so we're picking up at the point where we left off.
Know it, Sivir is the last in the bloodline of Azir, Shurima's lost emperor. And as her blood soaks into the ancient sands, a deep magic sparks to life. Resurrection. First Azir's mind, then his body, snatched back from oblivion to be reborn. Then he sees Sivir, wonders at her face. He sees himself in this daughter of Shurima. In that moment,
Oh, okay.
empires or rituals, he only knows she needs his help. He must take her to the oasis of the dawn, the mother of life. He smells the waters, smells of life. He prays he's in time. He does not dream that he, Shurima's greatest emperor, can at long last earn his ascension and bring back his broken city. He dares not dream that if he can save her, Azir can save them all.
Oh. Oh, she looks like Wonder Woman. Oh. Is this Azir? Oh, yes, it is. Oh, she got up. And thus the restoration of the glorious Shurima begins. Are those people down there? Okay, so I understand the story here. Cassiopeia wants to find out some mysterious things about Shurima's, I guess, past and relics, and they go. She brings Sivir with her as a mercenary, but then when they're there, she betrays Sivir, I guess takes the power of the serpent, whatnot, but Sivir turns out to be actually related to Emperor Azir. So overall, I think it's a nice stylistic choice to actually depict the story in this kind of Egyptian style inspired pictographs and frescoes. And actually, when it comes to the story itself, I think from Ionia and when I compare it to Ionia and Noxus, the ones that I've explored already, I feel like this is the most exciting. I'm not sure how to say. Like, it feels like an actual kind of adventure story or the start of one, whereas the other ones were just kind of laying the foundation for what the regions themselves are, whereas this is not just explaining the origin of the region, but also like it encompasses the prehistory and the current history, and also kind of gives you sort of a look into the future. Anyway, those are just my initial thoughts after watching these two videos, and of course looking at the different images and stuff. But to finish off, there are two more videos here. Music, Rise of the Ascended. It says Music of League of Legends, so I'm assuming it's just like a music video. And then the last one is a login theme. So I might just kind of skim through these instead of, it depends on how long they are. This one is 3 minutes 29 seconds. So this is more like orchestral. Does it develop into anything else? Really epic. You know what I mean? Okay, so this is actually, I think, the music that was in the background of the previous two, right? Was it?
Bring back. He slew.
Yeah, well, it sounds very similar. Orchestral, lots of winds. It's all in that same epic theme. Okay, and then the last one is the login theme. Is it the same? Ooh. Look at this interesting jelly-like water dripping out of this sun disk here. Yeah, the winged details here. Of course, very similar to the solar disk, the winged solar disk of the Egyptians. I think it's cool how, yeah, it has this very mysterious vibe, and at the same time, like this detail here. I like how they make the water flow out of it because, of course, Shurima is a desert, right? And water, I guess, is a scarce and valuable resource, and here it's just like flowing in abundance out of this point here. It'll be pretty cool if, let's say, I'm logging into the client and then I'm hearing this and seeing this. It'll be pretty epic. Okay, and I think that's it for the Shurima page on Universe League of Legends. Of course, I skipped a whole big part of it, which is the champions and their backgrounds and their related stories. But like I said, it needs to be separate, I think, not really in this overview video. Overall impressions, it's a fantastical land full of dangers. People are really surviving here, but if you manage to be one of those people that takes full advantage of all the treasures that the desert, the unforgiving desert, is hiding, then you may be on your path to eternal glory. Well, what do you guys think about Shurima? How do you like it? Who's your favorite Shuriman champion? Is there anything else that you think I missed or that you would like to clarify for me? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. This was Zoya, the Russian Korean. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.